All right, so for this game, looks like we have what is largely a sequencing game, so we'll set it up accordingly. We have 6 spaces to work with, and it's worth noting that in this game, we only have 3 elements to put into those spaces. We effectively have an O, we have a J, and we have an S, which means that in this game, we're definitely going to have at least some duplicates on the board. It's worth noting, though, that they do explicitly tell us that every single one of these is going to show up at least once. So we're definitely going to have at least one O, J, and S on the board somewhere, but beyond that, they can and they will have to duplicate to some degree. Now, we don't really have anything on how many times each person can go beyond the fact that they have to go at least once, so that's a bit more flexible. But I guess from there, let's take a look at the rules. So the first rule says that anytime we have an O, we would have to have a J on the next day. So if we have an O, then we would have to have essentially what is an OJ block. Now, it's worth noting that this doesn't mean that every J has to have an O before it, right? Rather, this just says that if you have an O, then you'll have to have a J that follows. But that allows for there to be other J's on the board that are not associated with an O. So J is still quite flexible. And from there, I suppose it does kind of mean that O can't go last, can it? Because according to the rule, she would have to perform in the festival the following day in a jazz trio. So if O was to go in number 6, there would be no way to have her perform a jazz trio in the festival the following day. So that does kind of allow for that little deduction that O cannot go last. Next, she has to perform in the same format on 1 and 3. So essentially 1 just has to be the same as 3. And we can leave a little reminder on the board here that these two are effectively going to be the same. Next, she never does a solo one day with an orchestra immediately thereafter. So essentially, we're just not allowed to have any SO blocks. Now, in terms of, I guess O is getting kind of restrictive, isn't it? Because wherever you have an O, you would have to have a J right after. And you can't have an S right before the O either. In fact, I suppose anytime you have an O, the only person that could go before the O is a J, because you wouldn't be able to have 2 consecutive O's, because then you couldn't fit a J after every O. And you can't have an S before the O. So I guess that's something. From there, though, it's worth noting that the first and third positions, this rule about 1 and 3 being the same, that's kind of significant, because there's really only 3 things that can go into 1 and 3. I mean, there's only 3 things that can go anywhere, but depending on what you put into 1 and 3, it would take out already kind of a third of the board. You would be taking up 2 out of 6 spaces. And depending on who it is specifically, you might be able to figure out a few more things. Like if this was an O, for example, then you would have to have a J following in 2 and 4. So this is a pretty good candidate for exhaustion. And remember, you don't really need a good reason to exhaust the game. You just need something to latch onto. And this is as good of a reason as any, because there's only 3 things that can go into 1 and 3, and whoever goes into 1 and 3 might allow you to figure out a few more things beyond that. So let's see what we can do with this. Let me just label these A, B, and C. So in the first scenario, if we put an O in 1 and 3, then obviously a J is going to have to immediately follow. And beyond that, I guess we still have to have an S somewhere, so we would have to have an S somewhere in 5 or 6. And there's not really a way to put an O there either, right? Because if you put an O somewhere in 5 or 6, like in 5, for example, you'd have to have a J right after, and you would have no S's. So I suppose in 5 and 6, you could have another S, like you could have a double S there, or you could have another J there. We have a little bit of flexibility. Now, in template B, if we put a J into 1 and 3, now here, we're a bit more open, aren't we? Because we could put an O over here into 2, but we don't have to, because we could put like an O here, for example, in 4 with a J following right after, and then we would still have room for the S's. So we have a little bit more flexibility there. What about the third template? If we put an S and S into 1 and 3, well, we're not allowed to have SO blocks, are we? which means 2 and 4, they can't possibly be O's. Now, to be fair, they could be S's still. We could have a lot of S's on the board, or they could be J's as well, but they definitely can't be O's. Although, actually, if they can't be O's, I mean, we do have to have an O somewhere on the board, don't we? And we know that 6 certainly can't be an O, which means really the only place where we could have an O right now is the 5th position. And then J would have to go into the 6th position because you have to have a J after every O. So that's pretty good. And at this stage, I guess we're just left with 2 and 4. And they could be flexible, couldn't they? You could have a J. Oh, wait, number 4 can't really be an S. We said that earlier, right? The only thing that can come before an O is a J. So we actually know that this would have to be a J. So that's pretty good. And that really just leaves us with a 2nd position, which legitimately could be either an S or a J. So that's pretty good. This is a very nicely fleshed out exhaustion. Let's see what we can do with the questions. Question number 6, what could be the complete setup of the game? So as usual, we do this based on the original rules. So first rule was that anytime we have an O, we have to have a J following right after. Let's take a look. Answer choice A, that works. We only have one O and there's a J right after. Answer choice B has, the 5th position is an O, but there's no J right after, so B gets disqualified. Answer choice C has an O in 2nd with a J right after, and that's the only one, so that's fine. Answer choice D has an O in 4 with a J right after, we're good. And E has an O in 4 with a J right after, we're good. Next, second rule, that 1 and 3 have to be the same. So answer choice A gets disqualified because 1 and 3 are different. Answer choice C, they're the same. D, they are different. We can get rid of D, that's nice. And E, they're the same, so we're good. Lastly, we're just down to C and E. We can never have an SO block. Let's take a look. Answer choice C has no SO blocks. I think we're okay on that one. Answer choice E has S on 3 with O on 4, which is not cool. So that leaves us with answer choice C as the best answer to question number 6. Next, let's take a look at the local questions. So we have question number 9, which says, if n is scheduled to perform, well, I guess n is not really a variable. So if we have an S 3 days in a row, so essentially if we have to have a triple S, well, right away, it's worth noting that there's no way for that to happen in template A. That's out of the question. Template B, I guess that could. We could have a triple S in 4, 5, 6, and that would force O to go into 2. Or we could have a triple S in 1, 2, and 3. And yeah, that would work. That would have been fine. So essentially, we would be stuck in templates B or C for this question. Now, at this point, to be honest, personally, I would try to do the rest of this mentally just because I have the vast majority of this figured out, right? If I have a triple S, they would either go here and this would be O, or they would go here and then the rest of it is already resolved. But if you really wanted to, you could kind of play this out on paper. That wouldn't be the end of the world either. So we can just kind of play out both possibilities. Either we have S, S, S over here, and then the J's go into position 1 and 3, and this is O, or you would have S, S, S over here, and we already know that we're going to have J, O, J. So let's take a look. The question asks, which of the following could now be true? Answer choice A, jazz on 1. And yeah, we could have had a J over here. That's very much viable. Just in case, let's take a look at the other ones. Jazz on 2, and no, there's no way for a J to go on 2. Can we have O on 3? Nope, that is definitely not going to happen. Can we have O on 4? Nope, not going to happen. Can we have J on 5? And nope, not going to happen. Best answer choice here is A for question 9. Next, number 10. If we have J on both 5 and 6. Now again, if you look at your templates, you'll notice that the only place that could work is template B, because template A, we have to have an S somewhere here, so that's out of the question. And here we already have 5 and 6 taken care of. So if we have J's on both 5 and 6, it would have to be this template B. And again, you can try to do the rest of this in your head from this point forward. If we have a J and a J here, that would simply mean that S and O are going to have to flip between 2 and 4. But again, if you wanted to put this on paper, that's not, the worst thing you can do. So if we have J here and J here, and then we already know that these guys are going to be J's, we're just going to have an OS split between the remaining positions 2 and 4. The question asks, which of the following now could happen? Answer choice A, O on 1, and no, that's definitely not true. A is out. Can we have S on 1? Nope, that's definitely not true as well. Can we have J on 2? Nope, that has to be an O or an S. Can we have a J on 4? No, again, it has to be O or S. Can we have an S on 4? And maybe this could have been an S. The best answer to question number 10 is E. Next. So the rest of these are globals. Let's take a look back to the global questions. Question number 7. N could be, well, again, N's not really an element. So we could have orchestra on what days? Let's take a look. Can we have an O on 1 and 5? And I mean, for this, we can use our exhaustions. This is where they really shine. And you'll notice that, no, there's never an opportunity for that, right? Because the only place where we can have an O on 1, there would be no way to put another O on 5, because then you would have to have a J and then you wouldn't have an S. So that's not going to work. Can we have a 2 and a 4 for an O? And maybe in the second scenario, maybe we can put an O here and an O here. Now we'd have to have another J over here and then S over there. But that seems okay. That seems legit. Let's hold on to answer choice B for a moment. Just in case, let's take a look at the rest. Can we have 2 and 5 be O's? And I mean, the only place that could maybe happen is in this second template. But if we put an O over here and another O over here, you'll end up with a J in 6, but then 4 will have to be S, and you would end up with an SO block, which wouldn't have worked. So C is out. Next, can we do 4 and 5? Well, if we did, well, no, we can never have O's consecutively because you'd have to have a J after that first O. And can we do 4 and 6? And no, O can never go on 6. So the best answer here is B. Next, question number 8. We've got, which of the following cannot be true? So we're looking for something that must be false. Answer choice A. We have jazz on exactly one day. Can we have exactly one jazz? Actually, no, we can't, because you'll notice again, this is where you look at your templates. There is never an opportunity for just one J. We have 2 J's in template 1, 2 J's in template 2, and 2 J's in template 3, which means that is the best answer here. The best answer to number 8 is A. Just in case, though, if you wanted to check the rest, answer choice B, we have jazz exactly twice. And yeah, that could easily happen. For example, over here, we have a J and another J, and then this could have been an S. Answer choice C, could we have had J go exactly 4 times? Ooh, can we have 4 J's on the board? Well, in this middle scenario, maybe we could have had something like, say, an O over here in the second position, and then you could just do JJS or SJJ, or really any combination of 2 J's and an S. So that seemingly could have worked. Answer choice D, could we have an S on just one day? Can we have just one S? Actually, that one scenario that we just did, that could have happened. In fact, we've even had a scenario right there, right, where we have 1, 2, 3, 4 J's, and then one of these will have to be an S. So that easily could have happened. Answer choice E, can we have a solo exactly 3 times? And yeah, that was one of the questions, in fact, where we had 3 S's here or 3 S's there. So either way, the best answer choice here was A. Next, number 11. We cannot have a jazz trio on what set of days? Let's take a look. Answer choice A. Can we have jazz on 1, 3, and 4? Well, I suppose that would be this template over here where we have 1, 3, and then a J over here. We actually just discussed this, and yeah, that could happen, couldn't it? Because if you put the O over here, then what's the big deal? You put a jazz over here, and then 5 and 6 can be a J or an S. Or specifically, they could both be S's. So yeah, we could have J on 1, 3, and 4. That seems easily like it would be okay. Next, can we have Jazz on 2, 4, and 5? And top template, that seems okay, right? We could have had a J here, here, and a third J over here, and then this could have been an S. So that seems fine. Can we have a J on 2, 4, and 6? And same one, really. We could have easily had a J over here with an S over there, so that seems okay. Answer choice D, can we have J on 2 and 5? And actually, no, that would never work, would it? Because in template A, J would have had to be on 4, so it wouldn't just be able to go on 2 and 5. Template B, J is already on 1 and 3, so it's not going to be just on 2 and 5. And template C, we have a J on 6, so it's definitely not going to be on just 2 and 5. So best answer to number 11 is D. There is never a scenario where J could have gone on just 2 and 5. But since we're here, let's take a look at answer choice E. Could we have J just on 4 and 6? And yeah, in template C, that easily could have worked. We have a J here and a J there. And as long as this is an S, which it could have been, then we could have had J just on 4 and 6. So best answer, once again, is answer choice D.